resistance maintained control over new hills in Al-Qalamoun after eliminating the last gatherings of terrorists there. Inhabitants of Majd al-Shams in the occupied Syrian Golan affirmed solidarity with the people of Hadar in their confrontation of terrorism and their support for the Syrian Arab Army. The advisor of the Islamic Revolution's leader in Iran affirms to al-Sha'ar the Iranian stand of support for Syria in combating terror. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Yarado Krikorian with the news in English. In cooperation with the Lebanese resistance, Syrian Arab Army units have tightened control over Shu'bat al-Bakkara, Shu'bat Thallajat al-Burkan, Qarnet Shu'bat al-Shakkara, Shu'bat Bayt Shakkur and Zalil al-Hajj hills in Al-Qalamoun after eliminating the last terrorist there. Syrian Arab Army units have eliminated a number of al-Nusra terrorists and destroyed their equipment near Ofania village's cemetery in the northeastern countryside of Al-Qunaytira. A terrorist leader's hideout was also destroyed and a number of armed men were killed in the southeastern neighborhood of Busra Sham town in Daraa outskirts. In Homs suburbs, several ISIL terrorists were ambushed and killed, and the machine gun-provided vehicle was destroyed southeast of At-Tafha village. A number of armed men were moreover eliminated, and the armored vehicle was destroyed in Jannat al-Qura in Idlib countryside. In Al-Hasaka southern countryside, several ISIL terrorists were meanwhile killed or wounded in Tal al-Barud and west of Sabah al-Khair Siles and Al-Melabiya district. Islamic Revolution leader's advisor for international affairs Ali Akbar Wilayati has reiterated his country's support for Syria in the latter's fight against terrorism and extremism. During his meeting in Tehran with Interior Minister Major General Muhammad al-Sha'ar, Wilayati said, Syria is confronting the Zionist entities, stooges and mercenaries and the terrorist exclusion project, which aims at weakening and dealing a blow to the resistance axis in the region in service of the Zionist American schemes in the area. Wilayati said, the Syrian people who have stood steadfast behind their army and leadership will ultimately prevail, adding that the conspiracy has failed thanks to the Syrian people's and army's sacrifices. Minister al-Sha'ar on his part referred to the hostile role played by certain countries in supporting the terrorist organizations, warning of the danger of the spread of terrorism in the region and the world in the absence of a serious desire to fight it and due to certain states' practices in training, funding and arming the terrorists, thus encouraging them to continue their crimes against Syria and the region. The Interior Minister also praised the support rendered by the Iranian leadership, government and people to Syria in its war on terror and terrorists. Such support has enhanced the Syrian people's steadfastness and realized positive results, he added. Head of the National Security and Foreign Policy Committee at the Iranian Shura Council, Alauddin Brujerdi, and Minister al-Sha'ar underlined during their meeting the serious and common resolve of Syria, Iran and the resistance to face up to terrorism, which jeopardizes security and peace in the region and the world. Brujerdi underlined continuous support for the Syrian government and people, adding that the Syrian sacrifices will bring about victory regardless of the terrorist organization's practices or the bulk of the military and financial support they receive from their regional and international patrons. Brujerdi added that the claim of combating terrorism, which is resorted to by the US-led Western Alliance, is nothing but a false allegation that serves the terrorists. He said the training rendered to the so-called moderate opposition and the lack of strict measures against the states that support terror would only encourage the spread of terrorism in the region and the world. Minister al-Sha'ar, on his part, affirmed Syria's ongoing confrontation of terrorism, pointing out that the terrorist organization's recent escalation of their criminal practices is nothing but a desperate, unsuccessful attempt on their part and on the part of those who stand behind them to realize gains on the ground. However, the heroes of the Syrian Arab Army and the resistance and will continue to inflict on them heavy losses. Welcome back. The people of Majd al-Shams in occupied Syrian Golan expressed their unwavering support for the people of Hadar in the face of the terrorist groups backed by the Zionist enemy. Dozens of Majd al-Shams residents gathered at al-Atrash Square to denounce the siege imposed by al-Nusra terrorists backed directly by Israel on the city of Hadar, stressing their readiness to support their kin against the terrorists, asserting that they will not give up an inch of the soil of their homeland, Syria. The inhabitants of Majd al-Shams renewed their support for the Syrian Arab Army in its war on terror, expressing pride in adhering to the Syrian identity and their rejection of foreign intervention. In Yemen, the Saudi aggression continued on cities, killing dozens of civilians, injuring many others and destroying vital sites. In Hajjah, the Saudi fighter jets launched 7 raids on camps and weapon warehouses, triggering huge explosions. Also, dozens of civilians were killed in other Saudi air raids on Aden and Lahaj. Meanwhile, fierce confrontations between the People's Resistance and the Yemeni militias are taking place in Lahaj, Abyan and Zammar, northwest of Aden. Finally, on the latest developments in Iraq, many ISIS terrorists were killed while they were carrying explosive devices in the outskirts of Mtebija area east of Salah ad-Din Governorate. Iraqi sources also announced the killing of an ISIS terrorist leader, Abu Khalifa al-Yamani, in clashes with the army in the outskirts of Biji district in Salah ad-Din Governorate. Meanwhile, 7 people were killed and 8 others wounded in mortar and missile shells by the terrorists on Al-Fallujah city. In Kirkuk, the terrorists blew up several houses in Al-Bashir village, causing heavy material damage. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our Facebook page, Syria TV channels. You may also watch the Syrian satellite channel live on YouTube. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Central Bank of Syria has set the exchange rate of the US dollar against the Syrian pound at 276.35 for the banks and 276.37 for the exchange companies. The Central Bank has also set the exchange rate of the US dollar against the Syrian pound for the transfers at 275. On the other hand, the euro exchange rate against the Syrian pound was set at 313.08 for the banks and 315.11 for the exchange companies. Oil prices fell today on worries over a global glut, while surveys showing a contraction in manufacturing activity in China and Japan also dragged on market sentiment. European stocks posted their longest winning streak in a month, as the region's leaders agreed Greece's government was getting serious about reaching a deal. Japan's Nikkei share average also rose to a fresh 15-year high today as hopes grew for progress in Greek debt talks and lifted stocks such as banks that had suffered recent declines. Gold retained sharp overnight losses today as its safe haven appeal was diminished by increasing hopes that Greece would reach a deal with its creditors to avoid a default and strength in equities. And finally, the euro fell back today as traders who had bought the single currency on hopes a Greek debt deal was almost going to close a range of still formidable political barriers to an agreement this week.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.